Needless to say, I did a lot of research before purchasing my 2022 Tesla Model Y dual motor performance model. Not only do I live in a very rough environment, I live in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. Our elevation is about 7,500 feet. Yes, it snows a lot and I drive in snow literally every day. I also live on a pass with a very steep grade, so not only am I driving in snow, but I'm also driving on a dirt road for several miles. So I wanted to make sure the Tesla Model Y could withstand these elements, especially in the snow. There's very little margin for error when driving in extreme weather conditions, and I will say the Tesla dual motor does a pretty darn good job. But there are three things that I would recommend if you're doing a lot of driving in the snow, going over passes, three things that you should definitely do to get ready for the winter. The first change and most important change is you want to go with a good snow or winter tire. The stock tires are great, but they're very wide and it's an all-season tire, so the compound of the rubber is a little bit harder. With the winter tire, the rubber's a lot softer. You have a lot of these grooves in here, so it bites the ice, bites the snow, and it's a much safer tire in the wintertime. I drove with the stock setup, the 21-inch setup, for our first few weeks in the snow, and it was kind of scary. Also, you want to go a little bit narrower. The stock tires are super wide. I went a little bit narrower. That makes a little bit more pressure on the contact point of the tire, so it just bites into the snow a little bit better. So I went with the stock Model Y 19-inch Gemini Tesla wheels, outfitted them with Michelin X-Ice snow tire. I think a Blizzak is an amazing tire as well. You do need to consider the circumference of the tire. So the stock wheels on a performance model are 21-inch. I went with the 19-inch, so you need the sidewall needs to be a little bit taller, so the circumference doesn't change much. One of the reasons I went with the separate wheels and tires, I want to keep swapping the 21 inches. The performance model has 21-inch tires, and you just can't find that many 21-inch snow and ice tires. 19 inches, a little more standard size, so I went with the Gemini wheels, the Michelin X-Ice, and I'm able to swap them out every season, so it's a lot better to do it that way than taking the tire off the rim and putting on the different tire each season. Plus it costs you a lot more money. This way I could swap off the tires, and the tires last a lot longer because you're only using them for half the season. Second, and just as important as good tires, is driving habits. Now, I wish Tesla would modify their software so we can control it a little bit more, but this has to do with regenerative braking. When regenerative braking, what happens is when you let your foot off the accelerator, it actually acts as if you're pushing the brakes. And in a snowy, slippery environment, that's not a good combination. Now, when driving on clear roads, it's great, but when the roads are slippery, this instant resistance when you take your foot off the accelerator can cause the wheels to slightly lock up and the car to drift a little bit. Now, this requires a little more attention when driving on slippery roads, and why you need to modify your driving habits. When driving a gas car on the snow, you tend to take your foot off and coast through areas that are icy, like under bridges or overpasses or shady areas on the road. It's best not to accelerate or brake in slippery conditions. Coasting is the safest way to get through slippery sections. But in a Tesla, there's no coasting. So if you take your foot off the accelerator, it's basically applying the brakes to the tires. And if you apply the brakes to the tires in a slippery environment, your tires can lock up and you drift a little bit. And it's a little unnerving. And this happened a lot when I had the stock tires on. So my habits changed a little bit when I'm driving a Tesla. One of the things is I basically drive a little bit slower, and when you're coming up to an area that's slippery, basically you keep your foot on the accelerator, you let it off a little bit, but you want to make sure that you keep your foot on the accelerator, because if you let it off completely, your tires may lock up and you may lose control. So changing your habits when you're driving a Tesla Model Y is the second most important thing after tires. One other thing that you need to be aware of in a Tesla is the power distribution to the front wheels and the rear wheels. If you accelerate a little too much in a corner and it's slippery, the back end will kick out and you'll do a little drifting. Now, normally in an all-wheel drive car, the front typically pulls you out of those situations, but it seems like right now the distribution of power between the front and the rear is maybe a little heavy in the rear, which is kind of fun, allows you to do a little power slide, but the reality is if that's not your intention, then it's a little unnerving. Third on the list is very minor, but it's adjusting a few settings. Go to pedals and steering. As far as acceleration, I like to chill out. In the wintertime, you don't want your tires to spin, so instead of going sport, go chill. As far as steering mode, I don't want things to be too tight because in snowy environments, you're constantly making micro adjustments in your steering wheel, so I like to go the comfort setting. As far as stop mode, I like to go roll because I never want to come to a complete stop. So if you happen to stop on a slippery road, hit slip start. That'll just help give you a little bit more traction on a steep environment. So in some of the older Model 3s and Ys, I think under the pedals and steering, you'd scroll down and there'd be a track mode. Track mode is pretty awesome, what I hear. It enables you to adjust the settings in the regenerative braking. So in snowy environments, it allows you to turn it down so you don't get that brake feel when you let off the accelerator. Plus, it enables you to adjust the drive and how much power goes to the front and the rear wheels. So that would be pretty cool as well. But obviously in my 2022 Performance Model Y, track mode is not an option. Hopefully Tesla will enable that soon. How does Tesla handle in snow? It does a pretty good job, but you absolutely need to do these three things if you drive a lot in snow. One of them is dedicated snow tires. The next thing is change your habits with regenerative braking. It is a conscious thing you have to think about when you come up to a snowy environment. You're used to stepping off the accelerator and coasting. With regenerative braking, you can't do that. Yes, there's not a lot of room here, so snow does pile up here and you obviously have to remove it. Other than that, make a few adjustments on the control panel for the acceleration and things like that. Thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up. If you buy a Tesla Model Y, you won't regret it. It is a great car. It's super fun to drive and it's pretty good in the snow, and those three things, you can make it a lot better. So thanks again.